power is never truly earned through kindness. It is commanded through presence, through force, through fear. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this better than most. He did not write for the weak. He wrote for the ruler, the one who understood that human nature is fickle and that love is temporary. But fear endures. If you want to be respected, not just liked, you must learn this. And tonight, we're going to uncover the brutal brilliance of fear and how Machiavelli believed it builds unshakable respect. Before we dive deep, subscribe to Philosophical Pulse, the place where raw power meets sharp philosophy. Like this video if you're ready to understand the psychological edge behind true leadership, and comment your thoughts below as we move through these lessons. Because this isn't just a video, it's a mental shift, and if you skip ahead, you will miss the message that brings all of it together at the end. So stay with me, let's begin. Machiavelli's most controversial lesson is simple. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Sounds cold, unforgiving, even cruel, but it's not heartless. It's calculated. It's realistic. Love makes men vulnerable. Fear makes them loyal. Why? Because fear controls behavior. Love merely warms it. A man who loves you may betray you if his love fades, but a man who fears you will think twice before crossing you. Machiavelli's advice wasn't for saints. It was for rulers, for those who wanted to survive the knives of court, the lies of men, and the tides of politics. If you want respect in a world where betrayal is easy, you must not be predictable. You must be feared, but not hated. There's a difference, a dangerous difference. Let's be clear. Fear is not about bullying. It's not about being loud or violent. It's about control, psychological control. It's the ability to make others second-guess challenging you. It's being untouchable even when you smile. You become the storm they prepare for, not the sunshine they take for granted. Consider this: a ruler who is too kind, too soft, too eager to be loved, becomes a pawn in the hands of those bolder than him. They flatter him, they disarm him with praise, then they take what they want. But the feared ruler? He is spoken of in whispers. He is respected in silence. He is approached with care, because one wrong word could be remembered forever. Respect built on fear lasts, because it creates boundaries, and boundaries create power. You may ask, does this mean you must be cruel? No, Machiavelli never glorified cruelty. In fact, he warned against excessive force. The key is strategic fear. Let me explain. Strategic fear is like the edge of a knife, visible, sharp, and never forgotten. It does not swing wildly. It is not reckless. It is remembered. It is quiet. It's the calm voice that speaks last in the room, yet everyone listens. To create strategic fear, you must first eliminate the idea that being liked is necessary. Because if respect and fear come at the cost of your popularity, so be it. As Machiavelli says, a wise ruler ought never to keep faith when by doing so it would be against his interests. This isn't about being evil. It's about being untouchable. Look around today's world. Leaders who are too soft get eaten alive. People who always say yes get trampled. Men who cannot draw lines become invisible. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago, and now you do too. If you want respect in this modern world, in relationships, in business, in life, you must show that you can walk away, that you are not afraid to lose what's popular, to protect what's powerful. The first lesson Machiavelli gives us is this: kindness without consequence is weakness. When people know your kindness has limits, they respect you more. When they know there are things you will never tolerate, they walk more carefully. Fear makes your lines visible. Fear makes your standards clear. And with that clarity comes control. So how do you begin building this kind of fear? It starts by mastering your emotions. A man who reacts too quickly reveals his limits. A man who speaks too much reveals his thoughts. And a man who can be easily provoked can never be truly feared. Control yourself first, and the world will begin to respect your presence. Here's the truth no one wants to say. People fear silence more than they fear shouting. They fear a calm man more than a loud one. They fear unpredictability because they can't read you. Use this. Don't be angry. Be quiet. Don't be loud. Be still. Let your presence do the talking, because in silence, you grow powerful. If this resonates with you, drop a comment now. Tell me how you've seen fear or respect play out in your life. Do people respect your boundaries or walk over them? We're only just beginning. There's so much more to uncover. But first, a reminder. If you're learning something from this, hit that like button and subscribe to Philosophical Pulse for deeper truths Machiavelli would approve of. We're a quarter of the way into the journey, and what comes next will change how you command respect forever. The fear of loss, how to make others afraid to cross you. A man who has nothing to lose fears no one, but a man who is afraid to lose something, his comfort, his access, his peace, becomes careful. He becomes cautious around the person who holds that power. Machiavelli understood this psychological grip. He knew the most effective kind of fear isn't the fear of pain, it's the fear of loss. To make others respect you through fear, you must give them something to value, then show them you can take it away. This doesn't make you cruel. It makes you decisive. It makes your presence valuable, and your absence even more so. If people think they can cross you without consequence, they will. But if they know that disrespect leads to access denied, to silence, to exile, to withdrawal, they will think twice. In politics, Machiavelli saw it play out daily. Princes who gave everything freely were mocked. Those who gave sparingly were honored. Those who punished betrayal once were never betrayed again. Fear doesn't require a throne. It requires boundaries. Here's a truth you already know, but rarely act on. People value what they can't control. When you are too available, too forgiving, too generous without standards, you train people to disrespect you. But when your time is limited, your responses are measured, and your approval is rare, you become powerful. Now think of the people you fear, not because they're dangerous, but because they are disciplined. They don't chase, they don't beg, they don't explain themselves twice. You fear letting them down. You fear being cut off. You fear losing their respect. That's the psychological advantage Machiavelli speaks of. To be respected, become someone they fear losing. Not because you threaten, but because you mean something, and you don't offer that meaning freely. To be respected, become someone they fear losing. Not because you threaten, but because you mean something, and you don't offer that meaning freely. Let's go deeper. How does Machiavelli suggest you maintain this balance? Through reputation and reaction. Reputation is the whisper that walks ahead of you. Reaction is how you correct violations when they come. If your reputation is that you tolerate anything, you'll be tested constantly. But if your reaction to disrespect is silence, distance, or strategic withdrawal, they learn quickly. One mistake, one overstep, and they lose access. This is why in The Prince, Machiavelli advises, a prince should inspire fear in such a way that, if he does not win love, he avoids hatred. It's not about being a tyrant. It's about making others work to keep your trust. So let me ask you, when someone disrespects you, do they suffer a consequence? Do you go silent? Do you cut them off from your time, your trust, your space? Or do you teach them they can keep taking and you'll always be there? Because if they feel they can never lose you, they will never fear crossing you. And if they never fear you, they will never truly respect you. Fear is not about control. It's about protection. You protect yourself from abuse by teaching others what they'll lose if they violate your rules. Now listen closely. This fear of loss principle applies in every arena. In relationships, never allow constant forgiveness without growth. In business, never let clients or partners disrespect your boundaries without cost. In friendship, don't be the one always reaching out, always fixing, always explaining. Make them wonder what it's like to lose your presence, and they will treasure it more. Machiavelli didn't teach fear as brutality. He taught it as leverage. And you hold that leverage when your absence has weight, when people look around and feel the difference you made. Because you're no longer there. You don't have to threaten anyone. You don't have to raise your voice. You simply make the consequence real. Not dramatic, just consistent. And here's where most fail. They try to scare others with words. But words are weak. Action is remembered. Walk away once, without looking back, and you'll never need to raise your voice again. This is your advantage. Not intimidation, self-control. Because when others know that your presence is a privilege, they move differently, they speak more carefully, they begin to respect you, not because they love you, but because they fear losing you. We're nearly a third through this journey now, and if you're learning from Machiavelli's mind as much as I know you are, smash the like button right now. Leave a comment. What's one thing you need to stop giving away so freely, so others start respecting you more? And don't forget to subscribe to Philosophical Pulse. We bring timeless philosophy to a ruthless modern world. The next part is where it gets real. Coming up in part 3, love is weakness, why being liked is a dangerous game. You may think you want both love and respect, but Machiavelli would say, choose wisely, because the moment you chase affection, you lose authority. Stay to the end, the most dangerous lesson is still ahead. And if you skip, you'll miss the very mindset shift that changes everything. We're just getting started. Love is weakness, why being liked is a dangerous game. You've been taught your whole life to be liked, to be agreeable, to be polite, to win others over with kindness, to be the bigger person, to never rock the boat. But Machiavelli would raise one eyebrow at that. And then, with brutal honesty, he'd say, the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. What does that mean? It means people change, loyalties shift, affection fades. And if you build your power on the soft soil of love, it will collapse. Machiavelli didn't dismiss love entirely. He simply understood it for what it was: unstable, fleeting, dependent. He saw that when rulers or men tried to base their leadership, their influence, or their survival on being loved, they became vulnerable, because love can be withdrawn, can turn to resentment, can be manipulated. It can disappear the moment you say no. But fear does not change based on emotion. Fear is reliable. Fear can survive storms that love cannot. So here's the truth. The desire to be loved is a trap. It makes you tolerate disrespect just to avoid conflict. It makes you say yes when you want to say no. It makes you soft, predictable, weak. You don't lead people by winning their hearts. You lead them by controlling the terms of engagement. You lead them by being respected, even if that respect is laced with fear. Because if they only love you, they feel entitled. But if they respect you through fear, they stay in line. Now think back. How many times have you bit your tongue just to avoid losing someone's approval? How many times have you stayed quiet when disrespected because you feared being disliked? How many times have you compromised your standard just to seem nicer? And what did it earn you? Loyalty or loss of self-respect? Machiavelli would say, stop chasing love. Seek respect. And if that respect requires fear, so be it. Here's the twist few understand. People actually love what they fear when it's done correctly. Not terror, not abuse, but controlled strength, clear standards, consequences that are known, consistent, and unemotional. This is what makes others trust your leadership, because deep down, people feel safer around strength. Even if they don't say it, they trust the man who draws lines. They follow the leader who isn't afraid to be disliked. They serve the one who doesn't bend just to gain approval. Because that kind of man, he cannot be manipulated. In Machiavelli's world, every prince who tried to win the hearts of the people without first commanding their respect lost everything. History is filled with such men. Too soft, too eager to be liked, too unwilling to strike when it mattered. They were remembered, not as beloved leaders, but as failed ones. Love is weakness when it comes before power, when it's chased instead of earned, when it's used as a shield instead of a sword. Machiavelli's cold advice? Let them love you after they respect you. If that love never comes, you've lost nothing. But if that respect fades, you've lost everything. Now here's a powerful exercise. Ask yourself, in your personal life, your work, your relationships, are you being respected or merely liked? Because the difference is everything. Respect means they think twice before crossing your line. Like means they enjoy your presence, but might forget your worth. Respect comes from strength, like comes from comfort. And here's the truth no one says out loud. Comfort is cheap. Strength is remembered. You may feel tempted to soften your tone, to please everyone, to explain yourself endlessly just to avoid being misunderstood. But Machiavelli would stop you right there. He'd say, "He who seeks to be loved will be devoured by those who sense his need. Insecurity smells like blood, and the world is full of wolves. So now is your moment of clarity. The more you chase being liked, the more you distance yourself from power. If this hit you hard, tell me in the comments. Where in your life are you being liked, but not respected? Your answer may open a door you've kept locked for years. And as we approach the halfway point in our journey, now is the time to remember. Like this video if it's shifting something inside you. And subscribe to Philosophical Pulse for deeper truths rooted in power, presence, and ancient wisdom. Don't just consume this, apply it. Because when we reach the end, you'll understand why fear isn't cruelty. It's clarity. Coming up next is the fear threshold, how to become untouchable without becoming hated. You might be wondering, if I embrace fear, how do I avoid turning people into enemies? That's a Machiavellian secret, and it's more subtle than you think. Because there's a line between being feared and being despised, and you must never cross it. Stay with me till the end, because the final message will expose the greatest mistake modern leaders make, and how you can rise above it with calm, controlled power. Skip ahead, and you'll miss what Machiavelli would call the final blade. The fear threshold, how to become untouchable without becoming hated. Fear is a weapon, but like any weapon, it must be wielded with precision. Use it too often, and it becomes blunt. Use it without control, and it turns against you. This is what Machiavelli called the threshold, a line that separates a respected ruler from a hated tyrant. And once that line is crossed, there's no coming back. So how do you balance fear and respect without falling into the trap of hatred? Simple. You master perception. Machiavelli wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, when of the two either must be dispensed with." But he also warned, a prince should be slow to punish and quick to reward, not because he is weak, but because he understands the art of control. In other words, you use fear as a silent force, not a public weapon. The moment you make fear loud, you expose yourself. The moment you punish too often, people stop fearing you. They start hating you. And hate, unlike fear, breeds rebellion. Fear must be calculated, not constant. It must live in the minds of others as possibility, not certainty. You don't need to strike often. You only need to strike once, with precision, and let that moment echo. Let it define you. You become untouchable, not by making people afraid of you daily, but by teaching them one unforgettable lesson. A moment when you responded to disrespect with calm, unshakable consequence. No outburst, no chaos, just certainty. This is how power works at its highest form. You create an atmosphere, a sense that crossing you leads to invisible but permanent cost. People don't fear what you'll say, they fear what you'll do and how little you'll say about it. Let me give you a modern example. Think about leaders you respect but rarely see angry. They don't shout, they don't threaten, they simply make decisions that sting. They cut access, they shift alliances, they walk away and never look back. That silence, that's the threshold. It's where fear lives and hate can't enter. But those who rule with chaos, who scream, who punish without logic, who humiliate others in public, they cross the line, they become hated, and hatred breeds revenge. This is what Machiavelli feared most. Not rebellion from the weak, but vengeance from the humiliated. So here's the principle. Use fear to create boundaries, not bruises. Let people respect your limits. Let them remember what happens when they test you. But never let them feel humiliated by your power. Because the moment you make someone feel small in front of others, they will dedicate their life to making you fall. This is why Machiavelli admired rulers who ruled cleanly, who punished once, who warned rarely, who rewarded those who stayed loyal without appearing desperate. He believed in balance, not softness, but stability. So, how do you apply this? Here are Machiavellian tactics to stay feared, but never hated. Strike once, not repeatedly. The more you punish, the less each punishment means. Make your correction clean, final, and without emotion. Don't embarrass. Withdraw. If someone disrespects you, don't attack them publicly. Step back. Take away your support. Let them feel your absence. Reward quietly. Discipline privately. Never flaunt your generosity. Never parade your punishments. The more subtle you are, the more powerful you appear. Stay calm. Always. Rage is weakness. Calm is terrifying, because no one knows what a calm man will do next. Fear must whisper, not scream. You must become a man whose silence makes others uncomfortable, whose eyes say more than his words. That's the threshold. Stay behind it and you remain untouchable. Cross it and your empire begins to crumble from within. You don't need everyone to love you, but you need everyone to believe you are fair, even when you're dangerous, because that belief is what protects you from hatred. Machiavelli would say, a prince should live in such a way that no word, action, or gesture invites contempt. Contempt is the cousin of hate. It grows when you mock, when you belittle, when you punish from ego, not strategy. So remember, fear protects you. Contempt destroys you. Choose your power wisely. Now take a moment. Think of someone you once feared but came to despise. What happened? Did they overuse their power? Did they punish you without fairness? Did they forget the threshold? This is what not to become. And now, reflect inward. Ask yourself, do people respect me because I'm clear, or do they fear me because I overreact? That difference matters, because clarity builds control, but chaos builds enemies. Leave a comment right now. How do you plan to maintain fear without crossing into hatred? This conversation matters. It could be the line that changes how others perceive your authority forever. And if you're still here, it means you're not afraid to face the darker truths. Tap that like button. Subscribe to Philosophical Pulse, where every lesson pulls from history's most feared minds and reshapes your modern reality. We're now halfway through this Machiavellian blueprint, and the next chapter is where we shift the game. Coming up next, the silent power, why speaking less makes you more respected. You want to be respected? Say less, because those who speak too much reveal too much, and those who reveal too much become predictable. And the predictable are never feared. But if you stay till the end, you'll unlock Machiavelli's final insight, the one most never see, the idea that separates rulers from victims. Skip and you'll walk away with knowledge. Stay and you'll walk away with power. The silent power. Why speaking less makes you more respected. The most feared men in any room aren't the ones shouting. They're the ones watching. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology caught up. He believed silence wasn't just the absence of noise, it was a weapon. Used with discipline, it builds mystique, it builds fear, it builds control. The more you speak, the more you give away. Your plans, your fears, your weaknesses, your ego. But when you master the art of saying less, you become unreadable. And when people can't read you, they fear what you might do. That fear? It's respect in disguise. Machiavelli saw how leaders who spoke too freely became vulnerable. They made promises too quickly. They revealed intentions too easily. They reacted emotionally, not strategically. And the moment their tongue moved too much, they gave their enemies everything they needed. Information, opportunity, leverage. This is why he wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally, and speaks only when it strengthens his position." Your silence is not passive. It's pressure. When others talk, let them. Let them try to fill the space with noise. Let them chase approval, show off, over-explain. You sit back. You observe. You calculate. That is power. Watch closely. In negotiation, the person who talks the most loses. In conflict, the one who gets emotional first loses. In leadership, the one who constantly justifies himself loses. Silence is strength because it creates imbalance. It forces others to wonder what you know, what you think, what you're waiting for. It makes them nervous, and nervous people make mistakes. This is what Machiavelli taught rulers to do: create uncertainty, because uncertainty leads to fear, and fear leads to respect. You don't need to intimidate with volume. You don't need to flex your knowledge in every room. You simply need to speak when your words are rare and heavy. Every sentence you speak should feel like a decision, not a debate. Every time you respond, it should feel intentional, not emotional. That's how you dominate rooms without ever raising your voice. But what keeps most people from mastering silence? The need to be understood, the fear of being misinterpreted, the urge to prove a point. Machiavelli would scoff at this. He would say, "It is not necessary to appear good, only to appear powerful. Let them misunderstand you. Let them guess. Let them project onto your silence whatever they want. Because while they're talking about you, you're 3 steps ahead." Let's be clear. Silence doesn't mean you never speak. It means you speak with purpose. And when you do speak, people listen. Because they know you don't waste words. They know your silence is a warning. They know your approval must be earned. That is silent power. Think of the great historical figures, emperors, generals, philosophers. The most feared ones? They were men of few words. Not because they had nothing to say, but because they knew the value of withholding, of letting others overplay their hand while they watched. This is how you cultivate mystique. And mystique, when mixed with fear, becomes reverence. You're no longer just a man. You become a presence. Someone who doesn't speak unless it matters. Someone who controls the tempo of the room. Someone whose approval is rare, but unforgettable. So how do you practice this? 3 Machiavellian tactics. Never reveal more than necessary. Speak just enough to make your point. Then stop. Let the silence carry the weight. When disrespected, pause. Don't react. That pause, that moment of silence before your response, is terrifying because they don't know what's coming next. Turn questions into power plays. When someone asks something intrusive, pause, smile, and respond with a question of your own. Flip the spotlight. Make them explain themselves. This disarms. This unsettles. This puts you back in control. Now ask yourself, do you speak out of need or strategy? Do you talk to be heard or to make others listen? Because there's a difference, and that difference separates leaders from noisemakers. We are well past the halfway mark now, and if you found value in this truth, real value, hit that like button. Comment below, what's one thing you need to stop talking about so people start respecting you more? And remember, this isn't just information, it's transformation. Subscribe to Philosophical Pulse and never stop sharpening your edge, because what comes next sharpens you even further. Coming up next, respect without morality, why being good can make you weak. You've been taught that goodness earns respect, but Machiavelli would say, morality is a luxury the powerful cannot afford. If you cling to goodness, you may become predictable. If you cling to respect through morality, you may lose power altogether. The final two lessons will challenge everything you've believed about leadership, fear, and control. If you skip ahead now, you'll miss what ties this entire philosophy together. But if you stay, you'll see the code behind the chaos. Respect without morality, why being good can make you weak. We've been trained to believe that good people win, that being kind, honest, and moral earns you trust and eventually respect. But Machiavelli? He tore that illusion apart, because in the real world, power doesn't bow to goodness. It bends to strength, and sometimes, strength requires doing what is necessary, not what is nice. A prince must learn how not to be good, and use this knowledge, or not use it, according to necessity. That's Machiavelli's truth, not a suggestion, a requirement, because morality, when followed blindly, makes you predictable, and predictable men are easy to control. Here's the hard truth. People respect you not because you are good, but because you are capable. Capable of saying no, capable of walking away, capable of doing what others are afraid to do, because it might offend their image. Machiavelli believed morality was a tool, not a virtue, a tool that, when used properly, could calm the public, please the crowd, win favor. But if that tool ever stood in the way of survival, you throw it away. This doesn't mean be immoral. It means be strategic. Don't be honest when silence would serve you better. Don't be kind when discipline is required. Don't be generous when boundaries need to be drawn. A good man who cannot be dangerous is not good. He is harmless, and harmless men are not respected. They are pitted, or worse, ignored. Think about it. You don't respect the man who always forgives. You take advantage of him. You don't fear the man who always tells the truth. You read him like a book. You don't admire the man who never says no. You use him until he breaks. So where does that leave you? In a position of choice. Machiavelli would say, if you must choose between being moral or being effective, choose effectiveness, because respect follows results, not intentions. Let's look deeper. Morality is often a luxury of the powerful. Kings can be moral because their armies protect them. The poor, they can't afford morality. Their survival demands realism. And the man who survives, even with bloody hands, can one day be forgiven. But the man who dies a good man, he is remembered, but forgotten. Machiavelli watched entire kingdoms fall, because rulers wanted to be liked. They wanted to be seen as good. And while they performed virtue, their enemies plotted their downfall. You must never let your public image replace your private strength. Let them think you're kind, but never forget how to be cold. Let them believe you're fair, but always remain unpredictable. Let them call you good, but never need them to believe it. This is where modern people fail. They live in a world obsessed with appearance, with likes, with compliments, with reputation. But Machiavelli didn't care how you looked. He cared whether you lasted. And to last, you must be willing to act outside the boundaries of approval. Sometimes, fear will earn you more respect than 1,000 kind words. Sometimes, one calculated betrayal will save your kingdom. Sometimes, silence in the face of injustice is wiser than dying for a cause no one else will defend. This is not softness. This is strategy. You're not here to impress the world. You're here to master it. That means knowing when to bend the rules, when to say no, and when to strike before you're struck. So how do you apply this? Let go of the need to be seen as good. Start asking instead, does this action protect my position? Does it command respect? Does it secure the future I want? If yes, do it, even if it makes some uncomfortable. Because the truth, respect often grows in silence, after discomfort. Now reflect, where in your life are you choosing to be good at the expense of being respected? Where are you saying yes to avoid guilt? Where are you forgiving when what you really need is distance? Write it in the comments below. Your clarity might help someone else break free too. And if this message is shaking your beliefs, that's a good thing. Growth isn't gentle, it's disruptive. It demands we question the values we inherited. Like this video now if you see the difference between power and people-pleasing. And subscribe to Philosophical Pulse, where real philosophy meets real consequence. We're approaching the final chapter of this journey. And what's coming next is the most dangerous idea Machiavelli ever shared. The one thought that can either crown you king or leave you destroyed. Coming up in the last part, the final move, why controlled fear creates unbreakable respect. You've learned the tools, the strategies, the truths most people will never accept. But in the last part, we bring it all together into one cold, undeniable conclusion, the kind that doesn't just make you respected, but remembered. Don't stop now, because if you leave before the final insight, you'll walk away with power half-formed. And half-formed power is a weakness waiting to be exploited. The final move, why controlled fear creates unbreakable respect. You've made it here not by chance but by choice. You stayed because something inside you knows respect isn't given, it's engineered. And Machiavelli's final lesson? It doesn't whisper, it strikes. Because it is here, in the quiet corners of power, that fear becomes not just a defense, but a crown. Controlled fear, not chaos, not brutality, not desperation, but deliberate, measured, strategic fear. That's the final move. That's the force behind unbreakable respect. So what is controlled fear? It's the ability to make others walk carefully around you, not because they hate you, but because they do not want to lose access to you. It is restraint with consequence. It is calmness with weight. It is grace sharpened like a blade. Machiavelli wrote, "Men must either be caressed or annihilated. They avenge light injuries, but cannot do so to severe ones." That means, if you must draw a line, make it permanent. If you must deliver consequence, make it absolute. If you must remove someone from your circle, never invite them back. Because clarity builds fear, and fear builds lasting respect. The moment people know you mean what you say, and follow through when your standards are crossed, you shift. You're no longer negotiable. You become foundational. They build their behavior around your presence. They don't cross your lines. They don't test your patience. They don't take your kindness as weakness, because they've seen it once and once was enough. This is where most men fail. They talk about boundaries. They warn. They threaten. But when the line is crossed, they do nothing. And each time they forgive without consequence, their power evaporates, their respect erodes, and they become just another voice, loud but ignored. But controlled fear, it doesn't yell, it doesn't warn, it just acts once, cleanly and without apology. Let's be clear, controlled fear is not about punishing everyone. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to, because your reputation precedes you. Because the one time someone saw you enforce your boundary, they told everyone else. They told them, don't try him. He doesn't flinch. That kind of reputation, it echoes. So how do you become that kind of person? You do three things. Be silent until it's time to act. Don't threaten. Don't explain. Just act. When someone disrespects you, you don't argue. You remove access. You withdraw approval. You cut the rope. Enforce only once. When a rule is broken, the consequence must be swift and final. You don't offer second chances, not for the important boundaries. One correction, no return. Let others speak about it, you never do. Power speaks louder through stories. Let your actions become legend. You don't need to remind people what you're capable of. Someone else already will. This is what Machiavelli meant when he described durable power. Not power that rises quickly, but power that cannot be shaken. It's the kind of respect that doesn't need maintenance, because it was built in fire. You can be kind, you can be fair, you can even be generous, but only after others understand this. If I cross this person, it will cost me. That cost, that's the fear, and that fear becomes the foundation of unbreakable respect. We've come full circle now. You started this journey thinking fear was harsh, maybe even wrong, but now you see it. Fear used correctly is not abuse. It's clarity, it's certainty, it's stability. It's the boundary that keeps power protected and makes respect possible. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to be cruel. You don't need to prove anything. You simply need to decide that your respect is non-negotiable. And anyone who forgets that disappears, without drama, without revenge, just silence and distance. Now I'll ask you the final reflection of this series. What standard do you need to enforce today to make others respect you again? Drop it in the comments. Don't hold back. You know what it is. If you've stayed until this point, you're not just here to learn. You're here to lead. And leaders, they don't chase respect. They command it. Like this video if the message shook something in you. Subscribe to Philosophical Pulse if you want more truths the world avoids, but you are now strong enough to handle. Share this with someone who's too nice and needs to step into their power, because power is not evil. It's essential, and if you don't use it, someone else will. This has been If You Want Respect. Machiavelli says start with fear. And if you remember nothing else, remember this: silence builds tension, discipline builds fear, and fear builds respect. Use it wisely, and no one will ever dare cross you again.